Hello, friends. Welcome back. Today's gospel reading is Matthew chapter 20, the parable of the workers in the vineyard. And basically, the story goes like this. There is a vineyard owner, landowner. He goes to town, finds people standing around doing nothing. He offers them meaningful work in his vineyard, offers them a generous wage. He goes back to town throughout the day, offering the same thing and coming back. And at the end of the day, he gives them all the same generous wage, and he begins handing out the paychecks in the order of the last one hired was the first one that he handed the check to. And the people that started early in the day, they got upset. Well, this isn't fair. We should get handed it first, and we worked harder than they did. And Jesus is saying, it's not how the kingdom of heaven works. Remember, it's a parable. It's an analogy. For us, the kingdom of heaven is our day's wage. It's more than generous. It's so generous that the scriptures don't even tell us a lot of detail about it, because God knows that we have sinful natures and we're going to just react to it anyway. So it's better for him just to say, it's going to be better than you can imagine, and it's going to be worth way more than you can work for it. You could be Elon Musk, the richest guy in the world, and you still couldn't deserve and earn your way into this kingdom. You couldn't buy it. So it's a very good deal, right? The point is, be thankful that you've been given this generous deal, and be thankful that anyone else finds it too, whatever time in their life they do. Because remember, we can't earn and deserve it anyway. What difference does it make whether you get handed the check first or last? It doesn't matter. It's the check. It's the same thing. It's all good. But in life, sometimes we're like that. We get focused on the things that don't matter. As Christians, we really should be the most happy people in the world. We know that we're loved from before time began. We know that we're forgiven when we don't deserve it. And we know that God has promised us a share in this kingdom. There's no reason for us to be miserable and grumpy. There's no reason for us to squelch the joy. And the joy is in the readings today. All of our readings, there's joy. But what do? We make life difficult for people seeking God. When I was a kid, we had wooden pews without any padding. Hard things to sit on. And it was also in a time period in which people spent a lot of time and money trying to look the part of people they weren't. People spent a lot of time and money trying to dress up like they're these English nobility from back in the old days. So we'd get to church, and the ladies would have these fancy dresses on with hats with things dangling all over, so much perfume, there's no oxygen. The guys would come in, three-piece suits, painful blistering shoes, and lots of cologne. Again, there's no oxygen anywhere near anybody. So here's Pastor Jeff as a kid, dressed up in a three-piece suit. Sorry, Mom and Dad. But that vest was so tight I could not expand my lungs. I couldn't breathe. I needed to suck in a lot of air because I needed to get it from way above where there was still some oxygen, but I couldn't. That's how I got through church. I didn't really like going to church. I was suffering for no reason. And now you look around and nobody dresses like that anymore. The things that don't matter tend to come and go. Hopefully the gospel doesn't change. That should never change. So anyway, I say that to you because sometimes as Christians we get really focused on things that don't matter. We get the scowly face at other people in the church for things that don't matter. And then we wonder, why don't people want to come to church? The people I love that I want them to have faith, why can't they see it? That's because we're hiding it. We're squelching the joy. When I went to Oregon, I think that's when I really started to see the difference, because very few people seemed like were out there, and those that were really focused on the things that mattered. And it got me really excited about faith. I found the joy again. So it's kind of like this. Years ago, my family and I, my wife and kids, we went on a trip to Colorado. We were doing Colorado things, outside things, mountain climbing things, rafting things, and then we did a horse ride trip. Because we all like that. So when you have teenagers in the household and you all agree on one thing, you've got to do it, right? For us, it was horseback riding. The guide for that trip was from Kentucky. He had the accent. He looked the part of a cowboy. And he was having a bad day. So all the instructions were very terse and very abrupt. And we were all just worried if he was going to shoot us with a sidearm if we looked the wrong way or we did something incorrect with the horses. We were never been so nervous about a horse ride. But along the way, I was in the back of the line, and I am who I am. So I started, Apostle Peter, man, he does everything wrong. So why not be like him, right? So I see a view coming up, so I got to get up my phone, reins in the left hand, phone in the right hand, doing the panoramic view, doing the selfie. I'm really cool. The trail takes a turn, and I'm still doing all this. And the horse misses a step or something because the trail is turning and going downhill. Both legs go down to his knees, which launches me full on forward flip. I thought I was dead. Somehow I landed on my feet, reins in the left hand, phone in the right hand. I just knew he was going to shoot me because we weren't supposed to get off the horse. My wife and kids are like, are you okay? There's a dust cloud going up. The horse is trying to get back up. And I'm on the right side of the horse, leap back up onto the horse somehow, get in the saddle. I'm hoping the guy doesn't notice. But of course, with all that commotion, how is he not going to notice? He dismounts and he's hobbling back there on his boots. Are you okay? Can you move your arm? Can you move your leg? I'm okay, sir. Yeah, I can move my arms and legs, sir. Are you hurt? No, sir. He didn't know what to do with that. He's like, You got back up on the horse on that side of the horse? I said, yes, sir. He says, you were a cowboy. And we all started laughing. And he was so excited that some Turon could do a cowboy-like thing and somehow get back up on the horse and not get hurt. He was so excited. The rest of that ride, we rode fast, we galloped, and he was talking a mile a minute. That's what I mean. As Christians, we need to go from being the grumpy guide to be the guy that's just excited that we're here. Focus on the part that matters. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that story and you get the point. So the gospel reading, it's about, it doesn't matter whether we're first or last, early or late, coming into the kingdom. The point is, and what matters is that we find our way into the kingdom. And then we're grateful for God who pursued us out of his love for us. It was the Monday night Bible study. We were talking about God pursuing us. And so this is an example of that God pursues us when we weren't seeking him. Just be thankful. But there's still that human side of us that says, well, I don't want to suffer. And it's not fair that other people got to sin longer than me. I should have waited to become a Christian. I kind of get that. All we hear about on the news and TV and everything anymore is it's all promoted. Sexual sins, drug sins, hating and killing. That's all that you see in this. And it's the theme. And there's a part of us that thinks, oh, that's normal. That's just what you do or whatever. But I remember being in high school and a lot of my friends were substance abusers. They got to go to the parties. They got to do all that stuff. And all kinds of other things happened at those parties. So I had to sneak out because my parents wouldn't let me go. I snuck out. I went to the first party. And I hadn't been there 5 minutes. And somebody comes stumbling down the stairs, literally head over head. I don't know how they didn't break their neck getting down the stairs. They were intoxicated. And other things happened at that party. And I thought, maybe this isn't the best thing to be doing. But I went to another one anyway. In that case, the parent who was intoxicated somehow managed to call 911 when another kid was convulsing and overdosing on something, and at least they got out alive. And watching my friends, I realized maybe I'm not missing out on stuff, because between the drugs and them looking terrified and having these weird after effects and doing things with their bodies with other people that they shouldn't have been doing, they ended up being miserable. So I don't know. Sometimes maybe we're not missing out by doing all that stuff. Just saying. So let's say we talk ourselves into saying we're not missing out on anything by leaving the sin life, finding the Jesus life. Then we start to say with our human nature, but now we have to suffer more for Jesus than we would if we waited. And that's kind of what Paul was wrestling with in that second reading from Philippians chapter 1. He's saying, I am in chains. I'm in prison. I'm suffering. My affliction of my eye has not gone away. Maybe I would just rather be dead. I don't have any freedom. I don't have any dignity. I don't have any income. I'm in jail. I'm for the kingdom. Maybe I should just die. It'd be better to be in heaven to be living this way, right? And then he wrestles with that versus, well, if somehow I continue to live and I endure this affliction, this condition, this situation in jail with faith and with joy, maybe let it inspire other people that I love and I want them to have faith, because they'll realize that there's more to just the external circumstance. And he's wrestling with this, just like we wrestle with things. We get a new diagnosis and we're like, I'm just done. I want to be done. Can I just go to heaven? We get older, we get too many new diagnoses and our bodies don't work right and we're just miserable. Can't get out and can't move. It's a struggle to get to church. So those of you that are older and you've got all these things going on, thank you for being here. I appreciate the struggle that it took to get here. And you inspire me that you're here. But there's a part of us that says, I just want to be done. But then we think about our family, our friends, the person that we want to find faith before we're going up there. We want them to follow us there. And we think, maybe I can struggle a little longer. And it's beautiful when we can figure out how to get that internal desire to fight through our struggles, our afflictions. If we can own it somehow, and somehow we can still have that peace of heart and know that we're loved, even in the midst of our suffering and our afflictions, and have joy, that's going to be the light that goes off for the people that you love. A lot of people don't care if you go to church. They don't care if you dress up to church. In fact, they might even turn them off to faith. A lot of people, don't care if you go to a Bible study or not. But one thing that may make a big difference to them is the fact that you are suffering and having hardships, whether it's job things or economic things or bodily things. That gets to a lot of people. How can you think that God loves you? How can you have a peace inside of you? How can you feel loved? And how can you be joyful when you're going through this stuff? That's going to maybe be the thing that really signals to them there's something else going on. So I share that with you as a challenge to figure that piece out. Knowing that you have my full empathy. If you're just ready to be done and you hope the Lord takes you, I get that. I empathize with that. I have my own afflictions that part of me is ready to be done. I'm ready for the new body experience. And yet, when the Lord doesn't call us home, we have the opportunity to work in the vineyard. And when we work in the vineyard, it's not to get God to love us. He already does. It's not to get God to forgive us. He already has. Working in the vineyard is about being a kid playing in the sandbox of God. It's our opportunity to live free as children once again, to help others freely because we've been freely loved and forgiven ourselves. And that's where the joy comes in. So that brings us to our third reading for the day from Isaiah chapter 55. And God says, "Turn to me and I will freely forgive." Such a cool statement, isn't it? So whether you're here feeling like you've been the guy standing around in town doing nothing, you lack purpose and meaning and direction in your life, or whether you're just standing around in town because you're so busy and that's your life, you're just so busy doing nothing in terms of the kingdom, you realize you're missing something in here. You look at your kids and you're like, they're kind of wandering. They're starting to get into things that aren't healthy for them. Well, the farther we stray from God, the more likely and more enticing other things become. Maybe you're thinking, I feel like I'm in prison like Paul, only I'm there because of my own choices, or maybe I'm miserable because of somebody else's choices, but I'm hurting. I'm miserable. And you want God to come into your prison and do something in your life. Now's the time to turn to God. So I'm going to say a prayer. I'm going to invite you to say it, repeat after me, or use your own words, but the point is, from your heart, you're turning to God. Holy God, I turn to you today. I turn from my standing aroundness. I turn from my prison. I turn from my busyness. I turn from my straying. And I turn to you. God, please forgive me. I realize now that I've been offending you by living this way. I realize that others are suffering and missing out on things because of my choices. I realize that others are missing out on the good parts of me because of the way I'm coping with my afflictions and my chains. Today I pray, come into my heart, come into my life, break my chains, set me free. Forgive me, for you have said you would freely forgive. I accept that, Lord, not because I'm worthy, but because you're generous. Today, I want to follow you. I want to play in your vineyard. I want to have that joy of a child once again. Lord, help me to wake up each day knowing that I'm loved, I'm forgiven, and free to play, which means to help you in your vineyard, to reach others. Amen.